All right, welcome. This is the National Communications Internship Collab. Great to see so many people. We actually now have over, I think it's 177 people in the group total that have signed up. So it's kind of exciting. People from all over the country, as you can tell. I'm Ryan Ferran, started the group and started maybe over a year ago. A lot of you have internships, many of you don't, but are looking for ideas and inspirations how to start it, different formats. And so that's kind of why I started the group, because I think it's a growing trend. A lot of us are running out of money in our states, our budgets are declined, we're all overworked. So how do you get all that great stories and that work out there? We've been doing an internship in Arcadia for about 8 years now, maybe going on 9. And it's just been a great model. It's changed over the years from how many students we've had, how we've done it, leadership roles. I won't go too deep into how we set up our program. I'll have some links we'll share from the previous presentations. You can kind of get into all the details if you want. But I think setting up the internship is so important, laying that foundation. So I just want to talk about how we do it here and why. And when I had Robert on, he has a college internship with college kids, but he also doesn't have high school students. So it makes perfect sense for him to do it that way. And he's got a really good program. We'll share that link as well. Kate was on last year. She has it run through CTE and a paid internship. And I like her model, especially how she works with local businesses and communities. And she has those partnerships, which to be honest, I haven't really thought about it at that level. So she's really created some great partnerships and helped pay for some of that, and just has some great ideas. So check out that recording too. We'll drop all those links in there. But if you have your own students, your own high school, and you can do it in a certain way, that's kind of what I'm recommending. And then you may have the pressure of your superintendent or the board saying, no, we have to, or your state you may have to pay interns, or they want to run it through CTE, or you may have a pathway that you need to have a capstone for. So it all makes sense. So there's no judgment. There's many different ways to do it, but I'll kind of explain the positives and maybe the challenges of some ways. If you hear somebody has an idea, no, let's do this, you can kind of explain, well, there's some crazy guy in California that's been doing it for years that would recommend this way over that way, and here's some of the potential pitfalls. So our internship in Arcadia, and we're in Los Angeles County out in California, we're about 9,000 students. We have a distinct advantage. I'll be honest, we have one comprehensive high school. So it's easier for us. I was just talking to Heather. They have a lot of high schools out there. I always recommend, if you have multiple high schools, pilot it at one, get it going, and then expand. Because if you want to do it at 4 or 5 to be equitable, that makes sense, but that's going to provide a lot of challenges going ahead. So I always say pilot it at 1. If it works, we'll grow it and we'll slowly expand it and get going. So ours is non-paid. We use our own high school students, and it's basically run as an after-school club, an extracurricular kind of group, sports team. We run it just like that. So some of the advantages of running it after school club is the flexibility. We can have our meetings. We meet once a week, and then we run everything else through a Facebook group. So we can pick any day of the week. The kids don't have to sacrifice a class. Are they going to take this class or another class? They don't have to choose. And they're more likely going to really want to be in the internship, be passionate about it. There's no grading in it. You don't need a credentialed teacher. You'll be running it 9 out of 10 times anyway, and you want that direct connection with them. And then the kids that are, maybe just doing it for a credit or a grade may not be so interested. They may be in the back of the class. But for us, if they're kind of they don't have the time commitment, they don't have the passion, we have a probationary period, and we just kind of say, like, look, when you have more time, come back. So everyone in there that's doing it is really passionate about it. They're involved, they're participating, as opposed to if you're doing it in a class, they may kind of like, I'm just going to get my C and move on with it. And you're putting in a ton of time and work. And do you really want that level of commitment in your program? Probably not. We use our own students. Whenever you can use your own students, if you have high school students, I highly recommending using your own students. You're giving them such an opportunity. You're teaching them, you're mentoring them, and they know the school. They know where it's at. They know the teachers. They know the students. They know the stories at the school. So it's way easier as far as training. So if you're using college interns that have never been on your campus, Robert can tell you the training level is way more. They got to know where the school is, who's the principal, what clubs do you have, what teams do you have, what are some of the stories, the issues, the challenges. So the training level is just quadruple what it would be as if you use your own students who they have school spirit, they're passionate, and they want to help their own school and their own community. So we found using your own students, if you have high school students, amazing. I might even consider middle school students a little bit. We're kind of thinking about tweaking going to the middle school because there's some good kids. We have broadcast programs at a lot of our middle schools, some school newspapers, and those are the kind of students that would be perfect for an internship. But it really provides value to your own students. And then you, as the person running the comms department or in it, think how much value you're providing to your students. You talk about, trying to do recruitment for student enrollment, attracting teachers, like you're providing a whole nother CTE program, internship pathway that didn't exist before you, and you're providing that. So that's a great value that you're adding to your own students in your own district. The other thing that we do too is we only take juniors and seniors. We totally disagree with that. Take freshmen, take sophomores, take every year. The one year we actually shy away from taking the most actually is seniors, because by the time you train them and get them up to speed at a first semester, second semester, it's senioritis big time. So you may get a month or two out of seniors. So have we taken them? Yes. We actually took one last year and they're not kind of cutting it and they're not going to be continuing with us. So freshmen, sophomore, and juniors are the best. We've had several students start as freshmen, continue with us till their senior year, 4 years with somebody. Amber and I can't make a meeting. We have them run the meeting. It goes seamlessly. So their experience, they get the routines. In our program, because we're so developed and so far along, and we have 23, 24 interns now, we have a mentorship program built in. So the kids that have been in our program for a year or two, when we get new students, they mentor them. So during that probationary period, they have mentors to check in with, ask questions to help them. And we basically tell our students, if you're failing and you're not getting through probation, it's your mentor's fault. Like it's on your mentor to drag you through and get you through, teach you everything. So starting them as freshmen, it's just such a big advantage. By the time they're sophomore, junior, seniors, they're the leaders in the group. They're running everything. So that's been really helpful. Another thing that I know we've all dealt with is all the social media rumors, social media threats, and the rumorville at the high schools. So when we have one of those issues, we'll go to our students and be like, what are you guys hearing? And we have 20 something students will be like, well, I know it may have started from here, or, we haven't really heard about that. We may get parent calls, but the students aren't worried about it via social media or whatever it is. So it's actually a great connection that we have with our students to have those kind of honest conversations, or those the social media challenges and all those crazy things that we love dealing with. So that's another advantage, besides the fact that it's super fun working with the students. But we highly recommend working with your own students. We also do applications and interviews as a part of the process. And this really kind of separates those who really want to be in it, that are going to work hard, that want involvement, to those that are just kind of looking for something maybe for their college app, resume builder. And then that exclusivity and that kind of prestige of getting in, going through the application process really kind of promotes the program. It gives it just that little bit extra where, you can't just get into this club. You have to kind of earn it, take some classes, do some research. So we get kids that really want it. And even some of the best lessons that we've given our students are students that didn't get in, or probation they didn't make it past because it's the first time they've ever done an application. It's the first time they've ever done like a full panel interview. And at least they get that experience. So the next time they do it, they just have that experience of having done it before, going through the process. And then once they're in, we go over their applications, what to do, what not to do, how to make it better, interviews, how to improve your skill set with interviews. We used to ask the question, tell us, one thing, kind of a positive trait and a negative trait that you're working on. They would quickly mention one positive trait and give me like 19 negatives, like, oh, I'm working on it. So they're like, no, like just, so we really help them as far as whether they're going to continue in this field or another, how to do those applications and interviews. And then it helps with that kind of, oh, wow, I got in DCI, and they're more proud of just like, I just walked in this club. They were passing out donuts. They needed more students for the club. Paid versus non-paid. I'm also a big proponent of non-paid. First of all, it's public funds that we're all using, so you got to be careful how you're spending your money. You may have pots of money and need to spend it on something, so no judgment there. There's a lot of successful paid internships. Again, I think Kate's getting some community partners, which is helping, which is great. But if you have the option of paid or not paid, or you're kind of discussing it amongst leadership, I would go non-paid every day of the week. I've never had one student ask for payment. We try to give them all the benefits of the world. We write them letters of rec. We do food. We do luncheons and stuff like that. They get press passes. But you can do so much more with a non-paid. We have 23 interns. If we were paying, we might have 3 or 4. Their hours are going to be limited. And then again, you're adding so much value to your department as far as what you're bringing in, the output, the productivity, and it's not coming at a cost. And non-paid is sustainable. I don't know about you guys and what your states are in, but California, our budget is not looking good for the future. So, you don't want to bring kids in, then have to cut it down because your budget just got cut. So non-paid is kind of the way I like to do it. And then if you are paid, you may have that, what's their motivation? Are they just looking for a part-time job, or do they want to be here? Do they want to learn? Do they want to kind of help out? So non-paid has been great for us. Again, there are successful paid programs that it works out perfect for them. They have the funding. Last thing I want to touch on before I have Amber kind of chime in on what we do and why we do it is sometimes people will ask, okay, now I have the internship set up. What do I have them do? And so if you ask that question, you actually may not need an internship. When I first got here, I had a long list of things that I wanted them to do. I was a one-man shop, and I'm like, man, there's so many. And I'm a former news reporter, so I see everything through the story of a lens, and a great story. So I walk on a school campus, I see a story there, I see a great program there, I see stories all over the place. So for me, there's never been a shortage of what do I have them to do, but I understand the question. So whatever your focus is, or maybe your low-hanging fruit, I would have them start with that. Like, we need to promote our CTE pathways, and I would have them start writing stories about those, doing some videos, just covering those events through photography. But if you're like, I've got these interns, I don't know what they're going to do, you may not need an internship program. And then if you get stuck, you've been going for a couple of years, we always ask the students, like, what are the issues you're facing? What's going on? And it's, there's always something about mental health. They're not sure like who to go to. And so like, all right, we can do a story about, here's all the mental health resources in the district, in the county. So we asked them, hey, what are you passionate about? We started doing a podcast a few years ago that was just a student-led internship podcast. And we started it more district focused, doing our stories. And it never, to be honest, it never really grew a ton of traction. We got some listeners, but it wasn't huge. So we turned that into, do whatever you guys want with the podcast. You're still going to learn. You're still producing. You're doing audio. You're writing. You're learning how to coordinate this. But they are doing, speaking of Taylor Swift, they did like a Taylor Swift album review. They're doing pop culture stuff. So it's like, just have fun with it. So not everything needs to be like a direct benefit to the district itself. You're just giving back to the students and having them experience. And they love doing podcasts. It's a different format. You can get on, you can chat longer. have your friends on, talk about the big game or whatever you want. So we kind of shift that way to make it fun for them. So not everything seems like a work assignment. So that's kind of our basic format of how we do it and why we do it, and some of the challenges that you may face doing it in another way. If you guys have questions, you can pop them in the chat. But Amber, anything you want to kind of add to that and the way we do it?
I think you really summarize it up pretty nicely. I've been with the program for 7 years now, and I think just starting small is so key. When I started here, Ryan we just really wanted to give a bunch of kids opportunities. So when I started, he had 42 interns in the program. And I was like, how do you keep track of all these students? And I quickly found that maybe of those 42, there were a solid 20 that were chiming into our Facebook group and submitting work for us to review, things like that. So I think really just starting small, like if I were to branch off and go into my own district, having served in this internship now, I would reach out to maybe some of your newspaper teachers at your high school, if you have like a broadcast news program there, and see if you could get some students that you already know are interested in doing this type of work and can hit the ground running. But yeah, starting small is key, because once you train those students, then they can help you onboard and train new students, like Ryan was saying. So, and I think it's honestly been the best part of my job is just being able to know it's a win-win situation. We're sharing all of the things that we know about not only communications and PR, but just professionalism and how to brand and market yourself. Interestingly, we did a go around, usually at the beginning of our meetings. We meet once a week. We do a check-in, and we'll just have a fun question or a bonding question. And we had found out through some one-on-one meetings we had with our interns that a lot of students aren't even interested in going into communications and PR, but the work that they do for us is amazing because this is a hobby for them or just a side passion for them. So you'll come to find that you don't even need students that necessarily want to do this for the long haul, but the benefits that they gain, again, are that professional work experience. They learn how to market and brand themselves. So they've got themselves on LinkedIn. They're learning how to network through us. They're learning how to interview and talk to people. So that's the other benefit of working with students in your district, because you're just continuing to give back to students that are coming up through your school system. But yeah, it's a great, fun program. We could talk about it for hours too, so never hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. Great points in there. Jim asked kind of the golden question, and this is the question that prevents everyone from doing it. They like the idea, but they're already working 60 hours a week and like, do I have time to run an internship program? So this is a great question, Jim. And this is the problem we first faced before, and Amber did a great job. I started it, she got here. And so I was spending a lot of time because I was proofing all the articles. I was critiquing all the videos. But once we got to a point where we got 16, 20 interns, then we created a leadership structure. So now we have student managers. So I have a student manager for the news writing team, for the video team. So instead of me getting every first draft of everything, it goes to those student managers who have been in our program for a while, and they can copy edit. So instead of us spending 20 minutes copy editing something, we're spending 2 minutes just polishing it up after somebody else has seen it. Same thing with video. So our video manager, they go through the critique with it. We never see it. They're improving it. So by the time it gets to us, we'll watch it once, send them a couple notes, and then so our time commitment has dropped significantly, but that is a challenge. And that's why this conversation about setting it up is so important. What Amber said is key too. Start small. Don't go crazy. And even though I got up to 40, I started with 1 student. And now I recommend start with 2, just so they have the buddy system and they're in it together. 2 or 3, that's perfect. 2 or 3 kids to manage is awesome. Another reason we do the applications and the interviews, because you want kids that can work in a group together, but independently. So I don't care what you guys are doing, what games you're covering, if you're working on our magazine or whatever, you can do it when you want. So we're busy, 9 to 5, we're pretty busy, so we can't be answering all these questions. So I need kind of independent people. So that's why we do the applications and we kind of pick like, ooh, this person. The other question we get, which is a good one, is like, where do you get these students from? Like, I'm kind of new to the district, or I'm not too connected to our high school. Talk to your video production teachers, talk to your newspaper teachers, talk to those photography teachers, say, hey, I'm starting an internship. I'm looking for a few kids. Do you have anyone you would recommend? And they'll give you 2 names off the bat, like, oh, this kid is great. He's always asking for more stuff. He's a great photographer. So ask for recommendations from your teachers, and you can kind of start that way. You can go to the classes, hey, give me 5 minutes at the beginning of your class. I'm going to talk to them about the internship program. But that helps a lot. And you'll find that we have students that are way better photographers than I'll ever be. They have some kids are really good at video animation and doing stuff like that. So that's another reason to use your students. A lot of these kids have blogs, they're photographers, they're doing this work. Great graphic designers we've had over the past, and they're in your schools and you don't know it yet. And they produce a lot of great work. But the time commitment one is kind of what prevents everyone's like, this is a great idea, but I don't have another 5 hours a week to do. So that's why I start small, structure it, and work with, kind of higher level kids. That's why if you do it as a class, you're like, man, now I'm putting in time, and now, I'm not getting the most output out of this time. Like, is it worth it? So when you set it up as kind of like an after school club, you have that flexibility and your time is kind of more valuable, and you're not spending so much doing it. You're not grading anything. So that's a recommendation for sure. Any other questions before we hop into small groups, or if anyone has experience kind of recently setting theirs up? All right. I would attempt to throw us into some small groups, and this way we can kind of, talk amongst ourselves. You can just introduce yourself, where you're from. Do you have an internship? Do you not? If you do, what's your format? If you're not, kind of what format are you thinking? And we'll just meet for like 10 minutes, and we'll come back out to the larger group.